Thank you for choosing Plygem stone for your building project. Our presentation will guide you through the process of estimating, planning, and installing your stone veneer in a step-by-step manner to ensure your application is aesthetically pleasing and long-lasting. Backed by a 50-year limited warranty, one of the industry's best, Plygem stone offers a fresh new approach to building design. Our quality stone collections offer natural appeal and will instantly define the character of your building's interior and exterior. Before you get started, let's review the tools you will need to properly install your stone veneer. These include a wheelbarrow, hoe, hammer, margin trowel, tile nippers or hatchet, grout bag, pointing tool, whisk broom or 3-inch paintbrush, measuring device, such as a large coffee can, and masonry rake. You may also want to consider having these tools on hand to help make the installation process easier. An air-powered roofing nail gun, 4-foot level, chop saw with masonry blade, notch tooth trowel to assist with spreading the scratch coat, and a wet saw. Let's begin by estimating what you will need to complete your project. First, determine how many linear feet of corners you will need. Measure all outside corners, top to bottom, including any door and window bump outs where stone will be used. Next, determine how many square feet of flat stones by multiplying the width of the project by its height. Then, subtract the square footage of any openings, such as doors and windows. Take half of the amount of the corner linear feet and subtract it from the square footage to get the approximate total square feet. We suggest you add an additional 10% to the total square feet and linear feet to achieve your total stone estimate. If you need wire lath, divide the total square footage by 18 square feet, which is the total square feet of the lath, to get the number of sheets you will need. There are situations that will require wire lath, including a concrete block, CMU, that has been painted, stuccoed, or sealed, poured concrete walls, tilt-up walls, brick surfaces, or superior foundation walls. If you need a weather-resistive barrier for your installation, please consult your supplier to determine the quantity that will be needed. 60-minute rated felt paper that complies with ASTM D226 is the proper WRB. Please refer to the Plygem Stone Installation Guide for drawings that show techniques to consider according to the surface on which you are installing your stone veneer. You will also need to determine the amount of mortar you will need. To do this, divide the total square footage by 40 square feet for jointed stone and 50 square feet for stacked stone. This will determine the total amount of 75-pound bags that will be necessary for the scratch coat, buttering the back of the stone before application, and grouting. Next, determine the amount of sand that is required for your project by multiplying the weight of the mortar bags by quantity by 2. This will give you the 2-part sand to 1-part mortar that Plygem Stone recommends. For example, if you have one 75-pound bag of mortar and times the weight by 2, that would indicate 150 pounds of sand is needed. A weather-resistive barrier, such as asphalt paper, must meet the requirements of ICC ES AC38, acceptance criteria for water-resistive barriers. For metal lath installations, please use the code reference from the installation manual, including metal lath installations on corners. We recommend you visit your local Plygem Stone dealer for an approved weather-resistive barrier. Joints should always overlap a minimum of 4 inches. And 2 layers are required for all exterior applications. 1 layer of WRB is acceptable for interior applications. When installing flashing, keep in mind that water always travels downhill. Insert fasteners into the framing studs when possible. Smooth out tar paper and ensure that it installs flat without any tears or holes. Also, ask your Plygem Stone dealer about a metal lath. Self-furred 2.5-pound metal lath or 3.4 pound, 0.375 of an inch rib lath meeting ASTM C847 should be used. Use of flat woven wire mesh meeting ASTM C1032 is also acceptable, but must be attached using self-furring fasteners. For proper installation, the lath should feel smooth when rubbing down and rough when rubbing up. We require you to use galvanized nails to install the metal lath horizontally. It is important that you insert a nail approximately every 6 inches vertically or every 16 inches horizontally, and to overlap the joints by approximately 1 inch. Where possible, insert nails into the framing studs. In the case of corners, whether on the inside or outside, the lath must be double wrapped or continuously wrapped 16 inches around each corner. The entire lath must be covered with a minimum of a 1/2 inch thickness of mortar so the lath is not visible. Now it's time to mix the mortar. Stir until the mixture holds a whipped consistency, similar to a cake batter. If the mortar begins to thicken after about 30 minutes, mix in more water. Only do this once, then throw it out and make a fresh batch of mortar. If the trowel is turned sideways, the mortar should hang onto the trowel. Check with the mortar manufacturer to ensure that their product meets or exceeds ASTM C270 requirements and will meet the minimum bond code requirements. With a trowel, spread the whipped mortar thinly, making sure the surface is completely covered. Spread the mixture with a minimum of a 1/2 inch thickness. Score the mortar horizontally with a notched trowel or masonry rake to create the scratch coat when the mortar is thumbprint dry. Be sure to apply pressure to ensure a strong bond. Allow the application to dry for at least 24 hours before applying stone. You may need to alter the stone's shape to fit your application. To do this, you will need a pair of tile trimmers, hatchet, or a saw with a masonry blade. Always use proper eye protection when cutting the veneer. First, mark the desired shape before cutting. We also recommend buttering the altered end of the stone before installing so that the stone blends nicely and conceals trim marks. To create a natural look, we recommend using a hammer or trowel to cut stones and avoid positioning stones in a straight vertical formation, allowing a maximum of a 1/2 inch around each stone. When straight cuts are required, a diamond or carbide saw blade will work best. Rinse the surface of the veneer after cutting to avoid staining from the dust. To conceal cut or broken edges, cover them with mortar when grouting the veneer. All applications, but especially installations in hot weather and hot climates, the scratch coat and veneer must be moistened to reduce the initial rate of absorption. Wet the scratch coat or wall, but there should not be excess water on the surface when you begin the application process. For cold weather installations, ambient temperature should be 40 degrees Fahrenheit or higher at the time Plygem stone is applied. If the temperature is below 40 degrees Fahrenheit, mortar should be heated between 40 degrees Fahrenheit to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Do not exceed 140 degrees. Any unused mortar that freezes should be discarded. Wall surfaces may need to be covered and heated after installation of veneer to avoid freezing the mortar. Applications in hot weather conditions should follow the requirements in Section 2104.4 of the International Building Code. Mortar should be kept under 120 degrees Fahrenheit and be used within 2 hours of initial mixing. Before you begin applying the stone to your wall surface, lay out a minimum of 30 square feet of veneer on the floor to get an idea how your stone veneer will look when it is placed in position. This coverage would require 3 boxes of flats and 6 boxes of corners. We recommend stones are positioned a 1/2 inch apart and fitted so that vertical joints do not appear to align unnaturally. Ideally, you should vary your stone veneer according to size, shape, and color to mimic nature's appearance. Using a trowel, apply 3/4 inch to 1 inch of mortar to the middle of the back. Push and scrape the mortar together on the stone to fill grooves and create a proper bond. Taper it to the edges so that it will spread when applied. Completely cover the back of the stone with mortar, leaving no voids. Please take special care during the bonding process, as it is critical in achieving a cohesive, durable, and safe stone veneer application. Although jointed stone, not dry stack, may be applied from the bottom up, working from the top down helps avoid dripping mortar on previously installed stone. Install the outside corners first by alternating the long and short sides. Then, work flats into the corners. Be careful not to bump the corner pieces. Joints should be a 1/2 inch, and the stone must be as tight as possible. Press the stone into the fitted area and wiggle it to secure the bond. If the stone does not stay, the mortar is too dry and water must be added to the mortar. But again, only do this once. Wipe off excess mortar, allowing drips to dry partially before brushing them off. In addition to the standard joint technique, you may also want to consider the full joint technique, in which the grout level is flush with the face of the veneer, or the increasingly popular overgrout technique, in which the grout overlaps the face of the veneer, widening the joints and making them very irregular for a rustic and aged appearance. The dry stack joint look is accomplished by tightly fitting each veneer piece prior to installation to ensure a tight fit. Fill a grout bag half full with mortar. Squeeze the mortar around each stone, filling in tight against the stone, but not flush with its face. Cut a larger hole in the grout bag or add water if the mortar flow is too slow. When no finger impression can be made in the mortar, strike the joints using a jointer or small dowel rod with a blunt tip. Then, use a small paintbrush to smooth the joint and remove all loose mortar. When finished, patch all holes, even small ones, to keep out water. As roof lines become more complex and multi-leveled, kick-out flashings are needed at the lower roof terminations that abut a vertical wall. The kick-out flashing is a piece of metal that is used where a lower roof line ends against a vertical wall. Installed above the rain gutter and/or drip edge flashing where the roof meets a vertical wall, the kick-out flashing literally kicks out rainwater and diverts it away from the lower wall. Major structural, mold, and rot damage can occur when kick-out flashings are missing or installed incorrectly. The kick-out flashing should ideally extend 5 inches up the wall and 5 inches out on the roof. The seams of the flashing also need to be watertight. Refer to the Plygem Stone Installation Guide or website for your local code and details. Codes for window installations vary by state. Please refer to your local code regulations. If proper care is taken during installation, cleanup is not required with most installations. For difficult stains, use a bristle brush and a mild solution of 1 part white household vinegar to 5 parts water. Rinse the stone thoroughly when finished. We recommend that you do not use any acid cleaning or high-pressured sprayers or a wire brush. These cleaning methods will permanently discolor the stone or expose the aggregate. To clean efflorescence, the white residue that occasionally appears on concrete or masonry surfaces, lightly scrub affected areas with a soft bristle brush and water. If that does not clean the surface, use a mixture of 5 parts water to 1 part white household vinegar. Sealing the veneer is not required. If you choose to apply a sealer, use only a penetrating and breathable silane or siloxane-based masonry sealer. Congratulations! You're ready to begin installing your Plygem stone. By carefully following the steps presented in this video, you'll be on your way to admiring a beautiful room, wall, or exterior of authentic stone veneer for years to come. Keep in mind that building code requirements vary from state to state. Check with local authorities for requirements in your area. For additional installation recommendations, please see the Plygem Stone Installation Guide or refer to the International Building Code. More information is available on our website at plygemstone.com. Thank you for choosing Plygem Stone.